I love the glasses. That's a good Bob McCown look.
Welcome back to Placed on the 55 with Jon and Jess. This is week 6 of the CFL. Jess, how was your weekend last week?
Well, I was really worried going into Sunday. I was going to be almost potentially 1-3. And thankfully, my BC Lions beat the crap out of your Tiger Cats. So I came into the week 2-2. And I believe that we're tied on the season at 10-10. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're tied 10-10 on the season. I would officially give you a +1 because you won that side bet last week with between ourselves about the Tiger Cats in BC. But officially, yeah, we're 10-10. I mean, I'm really rooting for you. I want you to be up there in the 700s or 750s even. You are the CFL savant of this podcast, and I'm more like the monkey who's just guessing and picking names, really.
Well, I would agree with both those statements. Yeah, I would. I strive to get to around 650, 700 on my picks for the season, and yeah, you are definitely a monkey.
How about that Thursday night game? What happened? Dukes was looking so good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, to start the season, he looked great, and then he just came apart at the seams. 5 turnovers in that game.
Toronto lost by a touchdown, and they were favored to win that game. Yeah, betting on the Riders, I lost that one.
And in what's supposed to be a quarterback league, apparently you can lose your starting quarterback and still win the game, which the Riders did.
Still win.
Their defense was awesome. The Riders just looked sharp. Maybe it's one of those situations where the team comes together because the starter is out, and they kind of outperform their own level and they do better than they should. You were saying week 2 you won with Winnipeg?
Yeah, Winnipeg beat Ottawa 25-16, and the Bombers were only 2.5 favorites at the time, so I got that game. Yeah, and that was the Bombers' first win of the season, so it looked good on them, and I still have confidence in O'Shea and his group to get it together.
Yeah, so the Bombers are 1-4 finally. It's taken them a long time to get there. Third game of the week last weekend.
Yeah, Calgary at Montreal. And that was actually an awesome game if you got to see it, and I think you did. But Montreal was behind Calgary for a long time, and they eventually won the game 30-26, but they didn't cover the 9.5 points that they were favored by. So I lost that one.
That helped me, though.
You picked the stamp, so you won that one, I believe. But that crowd at McGill in Montreal looked so good. The stadium looked packed, and I'd love to see that. And same with the game we're going to talk about next in Hamilton. The Hamilton Stadium looked packed as well. And I just love to see CFL stadiums full.
How do you feel about Montreal playing in the McGill Stadium, right? They don't even change the field. It just says McGill in the middle, and are we watching the McGill Alouettes or are we watching the Montreal Alouettes? What's going on here?
It's a good question. What the Canadian government had done or has done about 10 years ago is that they were willing to put in money into professional, stadiums like McGill, like Saskatchewan, like Winnipeg, but only if they were attached to a university. That's why those stadiums got built up. And I've been to McGill, I didn't go to McGill. I watched a football game at McGill, and it was awesome. Sure, there was only maybe 20,000 people there, but the stadium was packed, and it was awesome. Yeah, talk about a story about CFL. I almost got beat up at that game.
What happened? Tell me.
Okay. I was there wearing a BC Lions jersey, so BC at Montreal at McGill. And I was there with my fiance at the time. We had great seats, sitting second row in the end zone. I decided to bring a BC provincial flag on a golf ball retriever. So I was able to hike it up like 20 feet in the air. And I was waving around this BC provincial flag. There was some French guy behind us that was super pissed about that. And in the fourth quarter, he came down and he sat in the first row and he mouthed something to me and my fiance. And the guy that was sitting next to us, like to Liz's right, could speak French, and I couldn't hear what he was saying. But the guy that was sitting next to Liz said, "Hey man, whatever you do, don't roll out that BC provincial flag anymore. That guy's pissed." I'm like, okay, well, I won't do that. After BC intercepted a Montreal pass, he picked up my flag and threw it onto the field. Yeah. To which the security guards got my flag back. Liz and the French guy are to my right. To my left is this French girl and her boyfriend who had season tickets or whatever. And she was super rude to me throughout the entire game. But right at that point, when that happened, she turned to me in perfect English and said, "Hey, don't let that be a reflection what Montrealers are all about." It's like, that guy's an animal.
Did he get kicked out after throwing the flag?
He did. Yep. Security threw him out.
Did the flag go back up? Did you hoist it after that?
Oh, no. When the security guy gave it back to me, he's like, just wrap this up and keep it in your back pocket.
That was a warning to you. If we see this flag again on the field, you're going home.
What was cool is that Liz and I ran into a bunch of people from Surrey, British Columbia, who were, sitting at row 20 behind us. They saw the whole thing. And when we walked out, they were wearing Lions jerseys. And I'm like, holy shit, Liz, like, we should be walking out with these guys. They're going to be able to, give us a little comfort. I don't want to see any more Alouette fans. I don't want to get off track too much, but talking about CFL stadiums, I wonder how many you've been to. I've been to every CFL city except for Hamilton.
I've only been to BC Place. I went there initially when it first opened with my dad back in 1985, I think.
83 it opened, but sure.
I don't think I've attended any other CFL stadiums for CFL games across Canada. I've barely traveled across Canada. I went to Toronto once. I looked at the Sky Dome. I saw BMO Field. It looks great. Never got to go inside.
And I've never been to Hamilton, unfortunately. That's the only CFL city I haven't been to. And it's kind of funny you mentioned Toronto. Yeah, there's been a few CFL cities I've been to that no longer, like the parks have changed. So, for example, in Toronto, I've been to Sky Dome, but now they play at BMO. And at Winnipeg, they used to play at Winnipeg Stadium, and now they play at the College Place. In Saskatchewan, they rebuilt Taylor Field, so that's a different stadium.
Mosaic, is that?
Yeah, it's called Mosaic. Yeah.
Princess Auto is Winnipeg.
What I like what they've done in at Taylor Field was like they call it Mosaic Stadium at Taylor Field. It's still called Taylor Field. Speaking of Taylor Field, I got to show you this shirt I'm wearing. This is the official Party Grey Cup shirt from 1995.
Is that the Baltimore Stallions?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
There's two crazy stats about that game. Well, there's a few, actually. Last game an American team ever played in the CFL, and they won the Grey Cup. And they beat Doug Flutie's Calgary Stampeders in Regina. I was at the game. It was the windiest performance it was so fucking cold at that stadium. It was unbelievable. Cool, crazy stats that came out of that game were OJ Brigance that used to play for the BC Lions, and he was playing for the Baltimore Stallions at the time when they won that Grey Cup. He's a linebacker. And OJ Brigance went on to play in the NFL, and he won the Super Bowl playing for the Baltimore Ravens. And he's the only guy that has ever won a Grey Cup and a Super Bowl playing for the same home team, that being Baltimore. Most favorite stat is how, Doug Flutie came out of that game, and that was Doug Flutie's last game playing for Calgary, and then he went on to Toronto and won 2 Grey Cups for them, and then went on to Buffalo. And Doug Flutie's my most favorite player in CFL history. Don't even get me started on how much I love Doug Flutie.
He's kind of a legend around CFL, but yeah, we'll carry that on for next week. You had asked me about this game, the Montreal and Calgary game, and I never actually got to watch it, and it was probably the most exciting game of the week. The challenge with CFL is it competes with July. July is the best month in Canada. It's got sunshine until 10, 11 o'clock at night. It's hot, it's sunny, you're outside, you're barbecuing, you're swimming. I was floating on a boat. I also watched the highlights of the BC Hamilton game, and you don't like the boatmen, or their main jerseys, the powder blue ones. And I have to wonder about Hamilton. My wife, she used to eat tiger ice cream as a kid. That's where you get like licorice and orange together in one flavor. And she would mush it up and mix it all together, and it would turn gray, and she called it shark. And that's exactly what these uniforms look like.
I'm a big uniform guy, and I didn't like the Tabby's uniforms on Sunday. I don't know what they were doing, but
if I check my numbers here, yeah, I picked Hamilton again. Oh, I lost again. So that's 0-5 on Hamilton for me.
0-5 for you and your Tabbies. Good job. I knew that was coming.
But this week I have a chance to go 4-0 because the Tabbies aren't playing. It's their bye week. So I can't get it wrong with the Tabbies.
Yep, you're right about that. So coming into Thursday, we got Toronto at Montreal. Before we get into this next week's picks, we have to mention that this week's spreads are courtesy of Fast Eddie's Lakeside Casino Resort and Hotel. Come play some of the tightest spreads and loosest slots at Fast Eddie's Lakeside Resort and Casino Hotel, located on Mosquito Lake in northern BC. The resort is a very scenic drive, only 17 hours from Greater Vancouver. Mention Place on the 55 with Jon and Jess and receive a complimentary mosquito hat with a full mosquito head webbing for your stay at Fast Eddie's Lakeside Resort and Casino.
Thank you, Fast Eddie's. Beautiful place. Love it this time of year.
It's absolutely beautiful. You just need a mosquito net. If I was fly fishing, I would use a mosquito.
Yes. All right, let's get into week 6. Montreal, Toronto. Montreal is favored by 6.5. They should be. I think Montreal is going to win this and go 5-0 for the season. You had said something a bunch of weeks ago. You said that like early on in the CFL season, they're trying to figure each other out and passes are missing. And Dukes looked better at the beginning of the season than he does right now, and it could just be one game. But I think Montreal, like their level just keeps going up and up and up.
I agree. I also agree that Dukes has looked really good. And if he wasn't playing Montreal this week, who I think is probably the odds-on favorite to maybe win the Grey Cup outside BC, then I would be taking the Argos. But 6.5 points for the Alouettes at home. Dukes has been good. So it's going to be, that's the, the Alouettes are going to win, but they got to win by 6.5. I'm taking them anyway. I don't care. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Argos kept it really close.
They've kept all their games close. They lost by 10. That was their widest loss, and that was against Montreal a couple of weeks back. And then this most recent weekend, they only lost by 7. You raise a good point. I mean, these teams are 1 and 2 in the East, and if Toronto's number 2, maybe it's like a nail biter right down to the line. You know what? I'm going to go Toronto. I'm going to take the 6.5.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm going to flip-flop.
Good, because that's going to make it a little bit more interesting for us going back and forth.
Game 2 on Friday. Is Winnipeg going to keep this train rolling and go 2-4?
I think so. They're 2.5 point favorites. Calgary looked really good in Montreal last week. I think that's why the spread's only 2.5. But I still like the Bombers to win by more than a field goal. O'Shea's going to have that group, I think, intact. But, Calgary has looked really good. They went into Montreal last week and looked very impressive.
I think the Bombers are going back to their losing ways, not because they're going to play poorly, but I just think Calgary is looking strong. They had a good performance against BC, Montreal. They've played hard teams and they've kept it close. They did kind of collapse last week against Montreal. I'm not sure what happened exactly. Maybe it's just Montreal's that good and just came roaring back. But I'll take the 2.5 points and go with Calgary on this one. Saturday, we got BC against Saskatchewan and what they're calling like the watermelon smash. What's the promo they got going on here?
The Saskatchewan fans usually wear watermelons on their heads at their games. People in Saskatchewan love wearing watermelons on their heads. So the idea of the watermelon smash is that they're going to get a bunch of watermelons and throw them off the side of BC Place and smash them before the game.
Yeah, it's a local game. I think it's like a 4:00 start this Saturday.
Yep, it is. That's Omar Doman placing the Lions at a really good start time at 4:00 in the afternoon. So he wants people to come from the interior, even maybe from Vancouver Island. And you can't do that at a 7:00 start. 4:00 easily can. And I think that is an awesome idea. And good on Omar for everything he's done for the BC Lions so far in his 3 years of ownership. I love that. I love the Lions, and I love the fact that someone loves the Lions more than me that's taking care of them.
Are the Lions going to take care of Mr. Doman and give him a win on Saturday night?
By 6.5 points at BC. Well, I'm picking them. Yep. That's actually one of my easiest picks of the week, actually. Saskatchewan is mediocre.
Whoa. Pause. Saskatchewan's mediocre at 4-0 for the season, the only undefeated team in the West. They're mediocre? What are you saying here?
They haven't beat anybody that's that good. They're an overrated 4-0 team. I'll tell you that right now. That's why they're underdogs going into the Lions game on Saturday.
Not worried about their defense at all, eh?
No. The defense should be worried about Vernon Adams.
Yes, they should. And McInnes.
Holy shit. Number 18 McInnes. How good does that guy look? He's like 6'5" or something like that. And he can reach over people and catch passes and haul them down. Like, man, that's amazing. For someone that's 5'7" on a good day, for someone that's 6'5" to reach up, grab a pass, like, man, you can't defend that.
And it seems like McInnes and Hollins are just trading weeks. Like 1 week, McInnes is the star. The next week, Hollins is the star. And back and forth they go. Okay, so we're both going BC, and they're going to win by more than a touchdown. Hell, last week they won by 26 points. How are they not going to beat Saskatchewan by more than a touchdown?
Yep, and they've already sold out the lower bowl already. So they're opening up the upper bowl at BC Place, which is kind of a big deal for, people that love the Lions.
40,000 people showing up for the Rough Riders in BC, not 50 Cent. It'll be a totally different crowd. Final game of the week, the Elks return from their bye week. They're going up against Ottawa Redblacks. Not a great team. Maybe a good enough team to keep the Elks winless for the season. Although the Elks are favored at home. I think this is the first time I've seen the Elks favored all year.
Yeah, they're favored by 4.5, and I don't like them at all. I'm taking Ottawa 100%. You're going to give me 4.5 points for the Ottawas going into Edmonton. Edmonton might win this game by like a rouge, but they're not going to win it by 5, I don't think.
Wow, that's confidence. Okay, well, that settles it then. I have to go Edmonton.
All right.
I've liked McLeod Bethel Thompson. I think he's looked really sharp as a quarterback this season, and they've had close games. And yeah, I think I even won once with them, including the spread. They have to win outright by a field goal, and well, call it 2 field goals.
A field goal and 2 rouges.
I mean, it'll be tough, but if somebody can do it, I think MBT can. We had a listener mail this week, and they were asking about our betting strategy and why we only bet on the spreads. Why don't we just pick straight up winners?
but we haven't lost anything. 10-10, I think it's pretty respectable.
Yeah, it's very respectable because these are harder bets than straight up winners.
Well, sure. Yeah, it's easy to pick a straight up winner.
Yeah. And that's why straight up winners don't pay as much. With these type of bets, the spread bets, we're getting 2-1 on our money. So we're putting $1 at risk and we're potentially winning $1. We're not putting $1 at risk to win 28 cents.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and thank you for that, listener, for your email.
Can you give us a little teaser, Jess, to lead us into the end of this week and maybe the start of next? So let's finish up with one quick Doug Flutie story for the week.
Okay. When I first started watching CFL football, it was 1991. I might have been 12 or 13 years old at the time. And Murray Pezim, the owner of the Lions, signed Doug Flutie out of the NFL. And that was still a time where the CFL could pluck a couple of people out of the NFL and place them in the CFL, like kind of like Rocket Ishmael and other people. It didn't quite work for Flutie initially because he was, he's my size, like 5'7", 5'8". Like Flutie's knock was it was too small to play quarterback, and he would throw a pass and it would like hit his lineman in the back of his head. But when he got to the Canadian Football League, he got to run around, and man, he was the best athlete for the Canadian Football League. The fact that he was so versatile and so agile to, didn't matter if the linebackers were too tall. He would run around them and then throw a pass 50, 60 yards down the field. And don't forget that the CFL field is a lot wider than the NFL field. And that's one of the things Flutie said when he first got here. It was like, we hut on the far right hash mark, but to throw across the field, even if it's only like a 4-yard gain, that's like a 60-yard pass. He also was really respectful when he talked about the CFL. He was on the Dave Letterman show when Letterman's on CBS, and he talked about his time in Canada. And he's like, one of the things he said was like, you know what, the Canadians up there don't really realize how great of a game they have. Like those stadiums should be packed, and they weren't at the time. And they're getting closer to they are now. But Flutie never made any disparaging comments about the CFL. If anything, he was really proud of his time that he was here, and I love him for that. I think he's the greatest Canadian football player in the CFL history. Love you, Doug. Sorry you lost this game.
Flutie is a class act. He's one of the greats. Absolutely. There's got to be a 30 for 30 out there on the Baltimore Stallions.
Okay. So after the 95 Grey Cup, the Baltimore Stallions kind of got booted out of Baltimore. The CFL had 4 teams down in the United States, and 3 of them were failing miserably, and they were all folding. So the Baltimore team was the only one left, and they just won the Grey Cup last year. And the same time, the NFL decided that we're going to put another team back in Baltimore. So the Cleveland Browns moved their team to Baltimore and became the Baltimore Ravens, and they were going to play at the exact same stadium that the Baltimore Stallions were playing at. So the owner of the Stallions realized this isn't going to work. We need to get the hell out of here. And he moved the team to Montreal. And that was the 9th team at the time in Canada. And he renamed the team the Alouettes. And they played at Olympic Stadium. And it was successful for about a year or two. But they weren't drawing fans. They were getting like less than 10,000 people. Olympic Stadium, not sure if you've ever been there. I have. It's a dump, and it's kind of the end of Montreal. It's hard to get to. And the TSN turning point with the Montreal Alouettes was the fact that U2, the band, Bono, The Edge, Larry Mullen Jr. and company, they had a concert that was going to be at the Big O in Montreal. And it conflicted with the game that was supposed to be played by the Alouettes. So literally U2 kicked out the Alouettes out of the Big O, and the Alouettes were like, what the fuck are we gonna do now? They went and played at McGill, the university in Montreal, and they somehow got 20,000 fans. And the owner at the time was looking around, going, "Holy shit! Like we get 11,000 fans at the Big O, we get 20,000 fans here." And long story short, that's how the Alouettes ended up playing at McGill. Thanks to you too.
Thanks to you too. And they were the Stallions.
Yeah.
That's unreal. I did not. I thought the Stallions moved on into the NFL and obviously became the Baltimore Ravens. But wow, very interesting.
The Stallions at the time, Tracy Ham was their quarterback, and Robert Pringle was the running back, and he ended up running for 2,000 yards in one season as an Alouette, and he came out of playing for the Baltimore Stallions. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
All right, Jess. Until next week, this is Placed on the 55 with Jon and Jess. Talk to you later.
You got it.